Katrina came through, I applied for a grant. I might have did like, I don't know, 500-600 page grant. And I didn't think I got it because it had already passed the day that they were supposed to award it. And so I was like, okay, I want another center, so I'm going to purchase this one. And that's what I did. And not even a week later, I think, they told me that I got it. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do 2 facilities at one time? Not to mention all the way in Mandeville. So we built that, and I ended up selling the one at the General because I was like, I built this, and part of the grant stipulation was after we built it and did all these things, then it's ours. So there's no mortgage, there's no note, there's nothing.
And that was a huge grant.
Yeah, it was $2.2 million at the time, and that was in 2008.
We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. B1 Bank knows that entrepreneurs like you are always thinking one step ahead. So you need banking solutions that can keep up. It begins with lending. Does your business need working capital or financing for new equipment? How about a real estate or a construction loan? Good news, the B1 lending team is ready to learn your goals and help you find the best lending option available. Now let's talk about uncomplicating your daily cash flow. B1 offers a full array of treasury management services that let you collect funds faster, pay funds more efficiently, and access your information with powerful online tools. Most importantly, B1 understands the value of working with local nonprofits to build a stronger community. They believe in giving back through hands-on involvement with their B1 Community Outreach Program because it's simply the right thing to do. B1 Bank. Be uncomplicated. To learn more, visit b1bank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Hello, my name is Andrew McClendon, your host of the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. We are recording from the Propel Productions podcast studio here in Baton Rouge, and we're joined by our guest, Miss Tessa Holloway, co-founder and CEO of Kidz Karousel Child Development Centers. Tessa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so why don't we start by you telling us who Kidz Karousel is and give us an idea of the size of your operations today.
So right now today we have 6 locations across South Louisiana. I would say from Mandeville to Baton Rouge to Zachary. We are at 6 locations at about 160 plus employees, and this year actually makes our 15th year in business. And
how many children are you serving?
We're serving approximately maybe 1,040.
Wow. Right
now, and have room for more.
That's great. So your husband, Derrick, is your partner.
Yes.
Right. What do each of you do for the company?
So my husband does a lot of the facilities stuff, a lot of ordering and things of that nature, and I hold down the fort. I run the day-to-day operations.
Yeah. So congratulations on
Thank
having
you.
grown a tremendous business. I was curious what it is that you like about being an entrepreneur.
The freedom, I think, is the biggest thing. I absolutely love what I do. So if I could just do it without pay, I definitely would. But I love this. I don't even call it a job, but I love what I do.
Yeah. And so what do you like least about being an entrepreneur?
I don't want to say people, but just a lot that comes with it. Having 160 some odd employees is knowing everybody's story, and I am that person. I don't have my phone here, but I probably have 2,000 contacts in my phone. All of my parents have access to me, as well as my employees. So It's a lot of I don't have any privacy, I guess, or like downtime. I have a sign in my office that says I work 100 hours a week for myself, so I don't have to work 40 for someone else. And it's true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
I suspect that your personal mission is not strictly about making money. And I was curious if you could tell us why you do this, why you do what you do.
So if you are a great at what you do, and for me being an entrepreneur, the money's gonna come. If you do the job right, the money will follow. So I'm very big. I do consulting also for other centers that aren't making any money, to go in and show them, okay, this is what you need to do to get to that side. But I do feel just having a different outlook, and I took my business from being a parent and what I wanted to see when my children were in childcare that I didn't see, and I took it from there and made a business.
Well, I've mentioned it before in this podcast, but I like to think of it as, being an entrepreneur is what I get most enjoyment out of it is maximizing the opportunity that you've created, right? So in your instance, you've gotten in the child development center business, and there's a huge demand out there for that, right?
Yes.
Particularly quality care. And then every day getting up and trying to maximize that. And like you just suggested, if you do that well, then profits will follow.
And if you love what you do.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love because you're changing people's lives. Like, a child can have a really bad home life and come to us. I know they're getting fed. I know they're getting loved on. I know they're getting educated. And that's changing their life for them, because they spend more time in childcare than they do at home. They go home, they take a bath, maybe eat, and it's just, that you're making a difference.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference.
So I was going to ask you next about how you balance life work. It sounds like with 2,000 contacts, it's hard to get that balance, but how do you do with that?
It's hard to turn off. I have a great support staff. We've hired, we have a corporate office, so we have a human resource manager. I have a marketing. I have, other people under me that can take some of that weight off, which has been very hard for me to relinquish and let go, because I want to know everything and what's going on at all times. But I know that there are other people that can do certain things better than I can. So trying to let things go has been hard, but I know that it needs to be done, and I'm not getting younger. So, and I want my business to be here when I'm gone. I want a legacy. And so I have to develop that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. How does Derrick do with that balance, life-work balance?
Great.
Better than you?
Way better than me. But I think dads and men in general just don't worry as much. Like, I can take something and think of 10 scenarios for one situation, and he'll just look at me like, what is wrong with you? And he'll just think of that one thing, and then it's gone. And so he handles it, but he helps me to handle it better also.
So how is it being in a wife-husband working relationship? I mean,
it's tough.
During the day, it's one thing.
It's tough, and sometimes you're upset about something that happens at work, and it follows you home sometimes. My mom works with me also, and so so it's hard sometimes to separate that. And I'm like, no, this is work. This is work, Mom. Now I'm talking to you as a mom. Now I'm talking to you, and it's tough. And sometimes things do carry on, especially with me and Derrick, because we're together all day, all night, all the time. So it's tough.
So do y'all have any particular rules, like we can't talk business after this time?
No, but we definitely should. It would probably save a lot, and we've been together over 25 years, so it would have probably stopped a whole lot of arguments.
So it sounds like it's business pretty much on all the time. Yeah,
it is, but because I love it so much, it doesn't feel like that. It's hard for me. I don't have a turn off switch.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that defines a typical entrepreneur. There is no turn off switch, right? So that whole life work balance is a challenge, particularly, I mean, you're 15 years in, right? It's, but I would suggest that it does get better sometime down the road.
Oh yeah, and I have a great mentor, and that's one of the things that having people that you know that have went through things and help you to, okay, look, I did this, so, and you listen to their stories and you're like, okay, so I'm not going to do that because this is tried and true. And so I do really try to listen to what other entrepreneurs and friends have went through with their businesses so that I can make it easier, work smarter, not harder.
How much do you lean on your mentor?
A good bit. Like, yeah. I talk to my mentor a few times a day, and especially really? When I'm like stressed about things.
That's a lot of leaning.
Yeah, and he and his wife have done the same thing and have a lot of businesses, and so it helps me a lot because I know that I know what they've been through, and so it helps.
Did that mentor get to the level of success that you're experiencing today?
Oh yeah, my mentor is John Inquist.
Okay.
So he does a lot here in Baton Rouge.
Enough said. Enough said. So tremendously successful, and he's invested with you in certain instances?
In real estate, in some of my real estate that I do, like with Roseanne, for instance, we'll be building that center, and that's in one of his developments. Right, so right. When he does a development, I'm usually thought of first, like Zachary's and Americana.
Right.
And so that helps a lot because you have already built in like customers there.
It's a tremendous amenity for the development, but the development has to be, of a large enough size to
house it.
Yeah, and to justify that. So you have two beautiful, large facilities. One which I toured recently is just stunning, and the one out at Americana is how large is that facility?
13,900 square feet.
It's a massive daycare facility is what I would call it. But to get to that point, which I'd like to talk about in a few minutes. But first I wanted to ask you, like, what a typical day looks like for you. When do you start your day?
It never ends. So, no, I stop my nights at 9. Everyone knows not to call me after 9 o'clock at night because I'm not going to talk to you after 9 unless it's an emergency. But I usually get to the office around 6:30, 7 o'clock and stay till about 6 in the evening.
That's a long day.
But it just goes by so quick. I'm like, okay, it's already this time. So
now, are you at your corporate headquarters?
I'm at the corporate headquarters. But what I'm trying to do now is build a team that I have an assistant who she's going to step into my role so that I'm going to just be able to go to facilities, have a day with the teachers, with the directors, with the parents, and then just do acquisitions, do new building and things like that. So I can step out of the day-to-day of what goes on in the office and just do what I need to do to grow the company.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I can see where your mentor would be extremely helpful with that.
100%.
Yeah. So let's talk about your locations now. You have, did you mention 6 locations? So you have Americana.
Yes.
Not in any particular order, but Prairieville, mm-hmm. right? Walk me through the other ones you have running now.
Americana, which is in Zachary, right. Prairieville, Woman's, which is right up the street from Prairieville, Our Lady of the Lake, Main Street, downtown, and Mandeville.
And Mandeville. And a 7th one coming at some point.
In Roseanne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so dial it back a little bit. Let's talk about your customers. Who do y'all take care of?
We serve everyone. Because we're a type 3 center, we accept childcare assistance if we have parents that cannot fully pay for childcare. Right now runs between $200 and $245 per week, which is what college costs. So it's extremely high. And so the state has stepped in and like for an infant in particular, I think they're paying right at $200 almost a week to help offset that. So then the parent might be responsible for $35, $45 of that if they fall into a certain income, right, which we'll discuss later. But I was one of those parents that was on child care assistance. Wow. So I totally made sure that when I did my centers, even in Mandeville, which was an area that I didn't have anybody on child care assistance, but that was part of my, my goal and what I wanted to do. Is to be available for parents that needed some assistance. So I made sure that all of my centers were open to that.
So I think of you having childcare, and then, which is what, like 6 weeks?
6 weeks all the way to, we do up to 12 years old because we do before and after care programs. Right. And so we'll have some older kids that parents may not want to leave home alone, or they need assistance with their homework in the afternoon. So then we have some people that can help them do homework and stuff. And
then you're doing summer camps and things like that.
Yeah, we do. Yes.
You're year round for sure.
Yes. We close, I think, 9 days out of the year.
So when you look at those facilities that you listed a minute ago, you have some large facilities there. You mentioned the 12, or was it 9,000 square feet at Americana. And then the one I toured the other day was Woman's.
It's probably 14,000 square feet.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful.
Yes.
So I was wondering, for those that aren't familiar with your facilities or hadn't seen that, can you describe what all's going on in that building? Because when you drive up, I'm not sure how your other ones are, but there's covered parking in the front of that one, which just seems like a
so
great
most
idea.
of all of our facilities have a covered driveway, with the exception of, I think, Main Street, just because that was such a short little area. But all of our centers have a lobby that's locked. Our front door of all our facilities are locked, but then our lobby door to get into the facilities are all biometric finger scans get in, so that somebody just off the street can't come into our facility. If you don't have a child there, you can't come in.
So when your parents come in, they scan their...
Yeah, well, since COVID, we've been having to get the kids from outside, which has been a total nightmare, because we're missing that communication piece. But all of the facilities are big enough to where we have that entrance, and then they can come in, and then the hallways, especially at Woman's, they're wide, they're big, so you can have traffic going both ways and still have, it's a 6-foot hallway or plus. So you have enough area for people to be able to maneuver without being on top of each other. And all of our centers are licensed for at least 140 kids. So, and then going forward, as we build, they'll all be, at least that amount or more, at least 13 to 14,000 square feet.
Just a tremendous investment. What type of investment, when you consider land and building and FF&E and technology, not personnel, but like what kind of investment is that?
Now, I would say $3 to $4 million. The last one I built, which was Zachary, it was right at 3.2. Roseanne will probably be 4.5, I would say, for that one. And COVID had a little bit to do with that because of the prices of everything has went up to build. And so that'll be a little bit more, but owning as opposed to leasing, I would rather own, just because I have the bricks and mortar, and I like that.
So you own most of your facilities.
Yes.
You lease a couple?
Yes.
And what are the pros and cons of owning versus leasing for you?
Well, personally? I would say that leasing, which the first time I've ever leased was with Our Lady of the Lake last year. And they are great partners to have, extremely wonderful, and they care about their employees, and that's why they wanted a smaller company to come in and take over. But a prime example is a AC unit went out. Oh, well, that's $15,000. They get to fix it. So that's a wonderful part about leasing. And then when you have a great group of people that care, it just makes it, because they want what's best and we want what's best, and so that just it makes it a whole better situation. But obviously, when you own something, if you ever go to sell it or just make decisions, I don't have to call anybody if I want to repaint the building. I can just do things. Whereas when you lease, I need to let somebody know, like, okay, can I do this, and this, and I'm not used to asking if I can do something, so that's a bit different. And I think that's all.
And then when you're owning, you're building your equity over time, and which you can then leverage in the future for accelerating growth, right?
Yes, definitely.
So why don't we take a quick pause right there, Tessa,
Okay.
get in a word from our sponsor, and when we come back, let's talk about how you get started in this business.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. One of our sponsors, MBD Maintenance, is excited to announce that after 25 years, they're rebranding their company name to Pivotal. It's the same ownership, same staff, same location, just a new name that better represents the services they provide their clients across the Southeast United States. Pivotal does commercial building construction and renovation. They do tenant improvement work and retail and office facilities. They do installation of dock doors in distribution centers, storm and fire damage repair, and catastrophe recovery for national disasters. The team at Pivotal is simply the best. Their experience, they crush schedules, and they have an impeccable safety record. If Pivotal can help you with your next project, you can find them online at pivotalperforms.com. And we are back with Tessa Holloway with Kidz Karousel. So Tessa, I wanted to see if you can get into the story of how you started in this industry.
So, very great and interesting story. 2006, both of my children were in childcare at Kidz Karousel in Port Allen, okay. And I was a student at LSU, and my husband was working at NRG in New Roads, and the lady that owned the center approached us about buying the center. She had another center in Bruley or Addis or somewhere, and so she said it was too much, and she was trying to get rid of it, I guess. So I was working at Blockbuster at the time. I was a trainer for them and a loss prevention specialist. So my husband was like, well, you do all this stuff for another company. I know you can do it. You can do it. So long story short, we ended up mortgaging our house, pulling out $150,000 equity in our home, and gave her a down payment. She worked owner finance with us, owner lease or something. And then we purchased the center. And I knew nothing about childcare at that point. I didn't even know if I liked children at that point of my life, because I had two little boys 1 year apart. And so that was really tough. But I was on childcare assistant, so I knew that it was needed. And there were a lot of things that I knew that I would change. So we just took the leap and jumped in, and by the second year, I was able to buy her out and purchase the center, and it was
okay. So you come from no experience in running a childcare facility.
Correct.
So how was the first week? I mean,
so
at what point did you say?
Well, when I first got there, the girl that was running it, I was like, oh, they're paying her $15, $20 an hour. I'm going to take her job. And so I'm going to make $15, $20 an hour, and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then I got there and I was like, oh my God, this is hard. Like, this is a lot of work. Like, these parents are needy. The teachers are needy. And I'm like, oh my God. But I am big on self-help books and just helping myself, period. I won't fail. Like, I don't accept that in anything I do. Like, I'm going to figure it out. Right. So I just dove into everything. I read, I went to meetings, I took classes, and I went head first. And I was like, okay, well, I'll probably let go of this director after I learn everything. And then I figured out, no, I need her. And she ended up, of course, staying with me, as well as all of the staff did at that first center, because I was very hands-on. And so something I noticed, which is still true to today. And that's what my mentor tells me all the time. Like, people have to see you. They have to know. When I go into a center right now today, the first thing I go in a center and do is clean the bathroom. That's the first thing I do when I walk in a center, because I'm like, well, this is what parents see when they come in here. If they come in, and I want people to know that I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything that I won't do. So I make sure that they know this is, what I'm doing. But our first center was tough. You see a lot of things that you don't know that happens behind the scenes, and a lot of just things that you cry about, get sad about, and mad and everything. But it's definitely my calling.
Yeah. So how long did it take for you to realize that it was your calling?
Probably the first year in. So at what point did you say, I'm going to grow this, meaning another facility, and then furthermore, at what point did you say, I'm going to grow this a lot bigger than that? So that first year, the second year, I ended up buying a center in Irwinville, which is my hometown, across the river. And then I ended up doing a third center within that same year. And as I know now, I was told I outgrew my coverage. So, which is something that we talk about all the time. So, but I didn't know. I was like, okay, I could do this. And with growing 3 facilities within the same year and not knowing what I know now, like not having ran my own business and definitely did not know a bunch in childcare, I ended up, okay, I have to sell this one. I had and clean my slate again and let's start over, because it was too much all at one time. And so maybe I would say now about 4 years ago, that's when I thought, okay, I want to be like a publicly traded company. Like, I want to grow from, I think my first center maybe made $200,000 a year or something like that, to
in revenue or profits?
In revenue.
Okay.
No, it maybe did a little bit more than that, but yeah, maybe 200,000, and I wasn't paying myself anything. To now, I think even with COVID last year, we might have been at, I think it was like 5.6 million. So, fantastic. And I know now that how I could grow bigger, and keep the same quality and do great for the community.
So on those first centers, it seems that, did you have capacity for more enrollment? Was that like one of the low-hanging fruits as far as increasing revenue, was bringing in more?
Yes, my first center that I bought, when I first bought it, was licensed for 86 kids. And then within a year or two, when I purchased it on my own, I added on to that facility. So because I knew it was needed. Like right now, all of our centers have waiting lists, but it's a trying to find employees situation now. But yes, I knew we could grow, definitely.
So were you profitable? Did you actually get to profitability on the first?
Yes. And that was from being in the facility, because just like any place, like payroll is probably the biggest thing that that can make or break a business. So by being in my facilities and being present, then there's a lot of things that I know that's going on that I can manage. And so I'm a very big numbers person to right now. So I do all the budgeting and numbers on that side of it.
So how did you finance that second facility? You mortgaged your house on the first one.
Yes, and then the second one, because it was in a small town, I think she sold me that center for $25,000 or something like that. It was a small nonprofit. It was licensed for 40 something kids. So it wasn't big, but then I ended up doing a renovation on it and making it mine, making it a Kidz Karousel. And then the third facility was at the Baton Rouge General, and same thing, they were coming out of a lease also with childcare, and the hospital kind of didn't want to be in childcare anymore. They're like, we're healthcare. So that building was a lease. But at the same time, I just had signed the lease for that building. I had applied for a grant after Katrina was built. After Katrina came through, I applied for a grant. I might have did 500-600 page grant, and I didn't think I got it because it had already passed the day that they were supposed to award it. And so I was like, okay, I want another center, so I'm gonna purchase this one. And that's what I did. And not even a week later, I think they told me that I got it. And I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna do 2 facilities at one time? Not to mention all the way in Mandeville. So we built that, and I ended up selling the one at the General because I was like, I built this, and part of the grant stipulation was after we built it and did all these things, then it's ours. So there's no mortgage, there's no note, there's nothing.
And that was a huge grant.
Yeah, it was $2.2 million at the time, and that was in 2008.
So you focused your attention on that to make sure it worked well.
Yes, and it gave me the leverage for my other projects, being able to go to the bank and say, okay, well, I want to build another facility. And because I didn't have any debt on there, it was easy to say, okay, well, you can handle this, this, and this. So that helped a whole lot.
Yeah. So that was a massive shot to equity, right?
Yes.
So that was a huge deal.
Yes.
So, and from there you've started to build some of these big facilities that we were talking about earlier. And I was just curious, that whole process of site selection and planning and design and the building process, how you like that. How does that resonate?
So
with you?
I do feasibility studies on everything that I'm going to build, or select. Like I'm looking at some property right now across the river, like where I'm from. And so the first thing, obviously, I do is just a study to see what's in the area, what schools, what the demographics are, because now I know how much the facility that I want to build costs, and so I have to make sure that even though I'm building it for people that are on child care assistance that may need help, I'm also building it for people that don't, and I have to be able to afford it and make it affordable, but make it profitable at the same time. So I do a lot of work. When I did Zachary, I worked on that for maybe 3 or 4 years before it actually came up. And so people are like, oh, well, you didn't know? We've been working on Roseanne since the day the papers were signed to buy that, to when he bought that development. Like that day he signed the papers, he called, he was like, look, this is what we're doing. And so that's been some years now. Yeah. And so it's a lot of preparation that goes into, for me, that's a lot of money. So it's a lot that goes into I'm not just going to buy a center or just pop up and build one.
Let's be clear, for anybody, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
These facilities are beautiful and massive and very, very impressive. So you kind of alluded to it a bit there when you talked about Inquis taking over Roseanne and then calling you. But At what point did you start to bring on investors?
So when I went to build Zachary, we were looking in front of Copper Mills subdivision. There's a big old school, pretty nice, beautiful school they built, Copper Mills Elementary. And they had some land in front of it. And I was like, oh my God, this would be perfect right in front of the elementary school, so the moms can drop off their babies and then go drop off their, young elementary school kids. It would be perfect. And so we were working with, I think the developer there was Danton Bruce. Yep. Yeah, so he owned that property there. And when we went to one of the town hall meetings, they were like, we don't want another school there. And because it's going to block up the entrance for Copper Mills only had one street in and out.
I see.
And so they were like, it's going to be too much traffic. We don't want it. So I walked out of that meeting crying. Like I waited till I got out of the thing, and I walked in the hallway and I'm crying. And then the city councilwoman there, Laura O'Brien, who is phenomenal in Zachary, she came outside and she was like, no, Zachary needs you. And I've been working on something in Zachary for like 2 years. So I was really upset. She was like, no, you need to be here. She was like, there's a guy that's building a subdivision, a T&D down the street. I want you to go look at it. If you like it, let me know. I'll give you his contact information. So, we went there and
that was Americana.
That was Americana. And so, I called her back. I was like, I think that'll work. It's not on the main street, but I think Zachary's moving towards this way. And I said, let me see what he has to say. And so maybe the next week I met with Mr. John and his architect that developed Americana, and maybe a realtor and one other person. My husband and I went and met with them. And so he was like, we can do this, this, and this. And he said this would just be a great amenity for my subdivision. I never even thought about it. They had plans for assisted living there in the Y and some restaurants. He said, but I didn't even think about childcare. And he was like, that would just be awesome. And so he was excited, and I ended up getting that property there. And at that time, he never thought about him I didn't know anything about him. I never heard of him. And so we ended up talking, and then from there, just I think the fact that I didn't know him or who he was or anything just made the relationship real.
You might have been a little intimidated otherwise.
And so after I'd started building that center and doing everything, we were talking about some things, and that's when the Main Street Center came, about, and we sat down, and he said, okay, well, what are you trying to do? What are you and Derrick trying to accomplish? And I told him, I was like, I want to be KinderCare, but not KinderCare. So, he was like, okay, well, you're not going to get there with traditional lending, and it's going to take you longer, because at that time I wasn't with Business First at that time. And the bank I was with, they were like, okay, so after you build this center and we see how you're established, then maybe 2 or 3 years, you can build this next center. And so I'm like, that's too long. And so that's when John was like, okay, this is what you have to do to grow how you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much how that started.
I mean, otherwise, you'll have to save enough in profits, retained earnings, to finance the equity on your next deal, the down payment on your next deal. And by the time you get there, I mean, it takes, in some cases,
years and years.
Well, a couple of years anyway, maybe to get to stabilize and profitability. And I mean, that's part of a natural process for many businesses. And so that's a long, slow growth. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a lower trajectory, as John was suggesting. And so, how did that change with? So y'all became partners, or he invested?
Yeah, we became 50-50 partners in our real estate, any centers that I want to build or buy or whatever. Like it's
so Kidz Karousel is a standalone entity, and then there's a separate LLC that y'all are 50-50 that
real estate
that on the real estate. With his wherewithal, then y'all can
grow.
That's a huge. I mean, that is a huge part of your expense.
Oh
right?
yes, and just the knowledge, just things that may take me a long time to understand or even think about. I can just call him and say, okay, look, like right now, if I see a piece of property, he's like, okay, send it to me, let me see, and then he'll call, okay, no, this, and this, or yes, this, and this, and but at the same time, he's a big don't outgrow your coverage. You got to make sure that you have the right people in place and everything the way that it needs to be, because that's how businesses close down.
Tessa, you hit it out of the park connecting with Mr. Inquist as an investor, because you would just be hard pressed to find anyone anywhere that is as experienced and successful as he is. So congratulations on that.
Well, he's a great him and Marty are the best group of friends you could have, and just being able to just ask questions that yes, you could potentially have to pay someone to ask some of the questions or some of the things I need, and I'm smart enough to know a lot of the things that happen. It's because of him. It's because he knows, and I can just pick up the phone and say, okay, look, this is what's going on. And it does. And, but it's genuinely because of the people that they are and he told me, the first thing he told me was he doesn't invest in businesses. He invests in people.
Well,
and that's that's a lot.
And it is no surprise that you two, you three, I guess, have connected in that way. So again, congrats on that. Let us take another quick break here, Tessa, get in a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
We would like to thank GearTrain for their support of the NXT Entrepreneur Podcast. GearTrain is a national program management company that specializes in the inspection and audit of conveyor systems, VRCs, robotics, and material handling equipment. GearTrain also manages routine maintenance and repair programs, as well as emergency callouts for clients all across the United States. GearTrain technicians have the experience to keep your automated equipment systems running at peak output. For all of your inspection, audit, and maintenance needs, reach out to GearTrain. They can be found online at geartrainperforms.com. And we are back with Tessa Holloway with Kidz Karousel. Tessa, we were talking about real estate being a major expense, but your largest is certainly your payroll, right?
Undoubtedly, yes.
So how does it make you feel knowing that you and Derrick provide so many jobs for so many families?
For me, it makes me feel awesome. I probably have people working that shouldn't be working when they don't show up to work, but no, it makes you feel great. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. So it seems as if employee retention has always been a bit of a challenge in that industry. And today it certainly is a challenge in all industries. But what do you do in your business to build employee loyalty?
It's crazy because before COVID hit, we had just had a big, our annual employee awards banquet, everything. And I'm like, we're going to start doing full medical insurance, 401k. We're doing all this stuff. We're going to start, first, second quarter of 2020. And so COVID hit. But I'd made this big presentation. We're doing this. And I knew, we had been in talks with the lake, and we had been in talks with Women's, obviously before we got them. And so I knew I was coming on 2 big facilities that are corporations that have great benefits. And I knew I couldn't touch their benefits, but I knew that I had to do something more.
I see.
And so I'd already wanted to do it, but that just pushed it like, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. And COVID hit. So I couldn't go back on my word and say, okay, I can't do this. So instead, what we decided to do as a company and, with advisors, we went on and did the full medical insurance. But for the entire first year, from March to June of this year, I paid 100% of the medical insurance. Wow. Because I had ladies that either couldn't work because of COVID, because of they were in that 60 plus range, or 50 with, maybe diabetes or just some underlying something, and it wasn't good for them to be in the center. And so it was like, we're going to pay everybody's insurance full for the entire year. So we took that on during COVID when we had low numbers of enrollment, and we never closed though. None of our facilities closed. I was one of 6 facilities that were awarded respite care contracts. So like hospital, any person that was essential, they were able to come to our facilities without pay. So the state paid us for those employees coming to our facilities. So unlike a lot of industries that were hit, which childcare was hit very hard, we were one of the lucky ones that kind of fared. We lost money, don't get me wrong,
right.
But I'm okay with breaking even.
Right.
And especially during that time, I was 100% okay with that. No, it wasn't the great stellar year. I thought, okay, adding these 2 big facilities and, but I lost money, but I didn't lose money, right. if that makes sense. So I'm glad that we were able to do the things and that the state stepped up in a major way on a lot of things.
Okay. So, but your numbers are down on enrollment and your numbers are down on staff.
Yes.
Right. So your fixed costs are set. Your variable costs with your labor at that point is down some. Right.
Yes.
But you were able to get through it, like you mentioned, and at least break even.
Yes, with help from the state and then with help from our bank. So at this time, when COVID started and a little bit before, I was with Business First. And one of the things they did was they gave me the ability to just pay interest on my mortgages, which cut them down tremendously. Where one of my centers, I might have a $22,000 mortgage, it got cut down to $9,000. Right. So that helped a whole bunch to get through that first year of COVID.
Well, B1 Bank is our title sponsor for this season, so they're going to appreciate the plug.
Well, they are awesome. Yeah, very.
Okay, I wanted to talk about your management team, because as you've grown your business, every time you grow, it's something very meaningful, right? You're adding a lot of square footage, a lot of employees, and a lot of students, and a lot of expenses. And so you talked earlier about some of your marketing and operations people, but tell us your experience in growing that team over the years and how that's worked for you.
So my first 3 years, it was just my husband and I. I actually put my kids in one bedroom together, and so the other bedroom was my office. And then I'm a big, like I said, I read a lot of self-help books. I went to a Tony Robbins convention, really? And I'll never forget. And I got home after walking on hot coals and being all psyched up, like, okay, I'm doing this. And I hired one of my teachers who had a degree in business, and she became my assistant, my executive director, and we worked in my office, in the house, in that bedroom. And then maybe 2 years later, we moved into, my father owns a construction company he builds all my facilities. So we moved into his building. And then maybe 2 years after that, we bought our own office, corporate office. And it was just me and her in this like 5-6 office room thing. And then from there, I hired somebody else, a marketing person. And then I hired a HR person, and then, talking with John and knowing what I needed to do to grow, I knew the people that I needed to put in place so that I could grow my business and actually let go of some things. We just recently, last year during COVID, we bought a building on South Foster, which was the old Louisiana Travel and Industry building. So we bought like a 9,000 square foot office space with maybe like 15 offices in it. And it has a training space because we all do trainings, and conference room, warehouse, everything. And so I have space to move people up. And I'm a big promoter from within. So I have most of my staff has worked for me from being a teacher to the positions that they're in now.
So I mean, there's assistant directorships and executive directors with each facility.
Yes, each facility has 2 or 3 directors, assistant, and then directors, and then the company as a whole has. In our corporate office, I think we have like 6 people that are there, and we still have room for growth. We still have a lot of people doing multiple roles, and so I'm growing to that part, like to get some of that off of them as we grow.
So how has your marketing changed today from your early years?
My marketing has changed from me making the website and having been told by parents that I have misspelled things all over it, sitting at my kitchen table, to having a full-time marketing director that is the bomb. And, when you go to our Facebook, even though each center has a Facebook that only parents can see, we still have a separate, Facebook and different things. And just the stuff that goes out into the public, just having somebody that all I have to do is just pick up the paper and like, oh yeah, this looks great, and just give it to them instead of me trying to actually do things, has been phenomenal.
So social media is a big part of how you market?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of millennial parents, and so I'm not big on social media. Like, I don't know how to work a lot of the things. But especially now with COVID, it's a lot of communication that needs to happen. And so that's been a great tool.
I wanted to, in touring your facility the other day, I learned that parents can actually like get online and access a camera and look in their kids' room.
And we're one of very few centers that allow that.
So how does that work?
So once they join and enroll with us, they get a login, and they're able to look at their children, throughout the day. They log on, it's live, like very live, and they can see everything that's going on. So it helps, especially like I said, during COVID, because we took over 2 centers. These parents have never in over a year even walked in, like y'all got to tour. They have parents that have not walked into that facility. They don't know where their child's room is. They can't see. It's sad, and so being able to at least peep in through, the eye, like I can look on camera, has been a big help.
So when you committed to offering that, then did you have to roll that out across all your facilities?
Oh, no, I've always done it. I've done it for 15 years. I've never had a center without it. So, when I run across people that have ran centers and like, oh my God, I cannot believe, like my HR lady, Miss Hope, she ran the women's hospital facility for over 20 years. And when she first came to work for us, she was like, are you serious? You're putting and she was like, oh my God, parents are going to call her. And she's like, okay, now she sees it, you know, like, wow. Yeah, you'll have some people like, I need you to hold my baby all day. Like my baby's crying. Like you'll have people that call like, can somebody pick her up? She's crying, you know, don't mind the other 15 kids in here. I just need you to focus on mine. But it's a wonderful marketing tool, but it's a wonderful management tool because you can see things and you can see it both ways. If you have a child that is 4 years old, pre-K, acting a complete fool, you know, the parent can see that because I have parents that have just came straight to the center. I need to see Johnny. I need him to come outside with me, you know, because they've seen what's going on in the room, you know, firsthand. And so, but yeah. I've never had a center without cameras, and I don't even know what I would do without. Like I'll just, on a Saturday, I'll go back and just watch footage from the week just so I can see, okay, this is what's going on. And I actually have a girl she does that for me. Like every day she watches at least an hour at this center, and I just so she can see what's going on.
That's fascinating.
Because you can't catch everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. So Tessa, what traits do you have that you think make you successful at what you do?
I guess just wanting to know everything. Like, I want to know all of the laws, all of the, just everything. I want to make sure that I am giving the best, I guess you would say product, but the best of my ability, you know? And so I put a lot in to what I'm doing, but, it makes you feel good. Just like I said, my confidence level is extremely high in what I do. Like I have no qualms about having a conversation with anybody on childcare or on running a childcare business and making it successful and making it make money and just doing the right thing. Like I'm 100% confident in my level of, what I'm capable of doing and what I know.
Yeah, it seems to go beyond a work ethic. And there's this tenacity of wanting to be the best. What I'm reading, that like no one's going to be better at what you do.
That's another sign I have in my office. I will not get outworked on this. I stay in my lane, you know, just like I said, I tried to do the marketing thing for myself when I first started. Oh, that's not my thing. I can figure it out and make it look cute and do it. But if there's somebody else that can do it better, okay. Yeah. Same with the HR or but with knowing the law and knowing how to run a childcare business, I don't think there's very many people that can hold up to me.
Yeah. Well, I can sense that for sure. So, couple of things here wrapping up. What is your vision as you look out 10 years or more?
I definitely in the next 10 years want to be at 20 plus facilities. Maybe go to a different state. I'm not sure about that yet, how I feel about that, because I want to be able to put my hands on things. So, but I gotta let that go and have people that can put their hands on things, is what I was told. So I just gotta let go a little bit, but I definitely want to grow and leave a legacy and leave, because it's not, now that I've been in here 15 years, I know that I want this to be here when I'm gone, you know, and so people will still have jobs, people will still have a great place to bring their kids, and that it'll live longer than me. Yeah.
So ringing the bell on Wall Street in an IPO is you
definitely a goal.
Yeah. And taking your brand national is do you, when you think of that, and you mentioned your real estate philosophy, do you see where that possibility exists, where you may have a combination of that and leasing in order to allow you to expand even further, or are you pretty much committed to that ownership aspect of it?
I'm not. I've thought about, because I've been asked multiple times about franchising. But right now I'm too hands-on, and I'm too small to where if something happens somewhere else that it would affect my brand. And so I haven't learned to let go that much yet. And so that's still kind of up in the air, but no, I think long term I don't have to own them all. But at the same time, I don't know how that looks yet.
Yep. Well, Tessa, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, it is just such a joy to see what you've grown and to walk inside your business and see it firsthand and see how impressive it is. I am just super impressed.
Come a long way from a house, right?
That's right. So impressive. So thank you for joining us. Appreciate you sharing your story. And thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thank y'all for having me.
Tessa is a complete dynamo. I just love her story. She started out knowing absolutely nothing about the childcare industry. She just wanted the best for her children. Her and her husband, Derrick, bought the daycare center that they went to. They mortgaged their home to do so. And failure wasn't an option, and that's still a guiding principle for them today. Tessa immersed herself in every aspect of the industry to the point that she is as confident as can be that she knows as much about it as anyone. She has an aggressive growth plan and is building a brand with national aspirations. Derrick and Tessa have a goal to go public one day, and she is probably as good an example as any of our guests for having a great mentor and a great bank. We wish her and Derrick the continued success. We thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. We would like to thank our title sponsor, B1 Bank. They can be found online at b1bank.com. The Next Entrepreneur is produced by Propel Productions. You can find more information at propelyourstory.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Next Entrepreneur Podcast and hit the bell for notifications. You can also follow us on social media. The links are in the description below.